bunch of mercenaries tried to overthrow the Seychelles government. The full story of South Africa's involvement has never been told, until now.
The Seychelles are tourist heaven. For years, holidaymakers have flocked to these islands, strung out like jewels in the Indian Ocean. But in 1977, trouble came to paradise. Seychellois President, Sir James Mansham, was ousted in a coup led by Albert René. Mansham had been a friend of apartheid South Africa. René, a socialist, was not. He was soon to discover how unfriendly his South African neighbours could be. Not only were the islands strategically important to the navies that patrolled the Indian Ocean, they were also a refuelling stop for South African Airways on their long-haul flights to Asia. Pretoria was upset when René imposed sanctions by cancelling SAA's landing rights at the airport on Mahé Island, capital of the Seychelles. Seychellois refugees from the Mansham regime fled to Durban, and when they asked for assistance in getting back to power, South Africa was willing to talk. Enter Martin Dolinczek, then a senior operative of the National Intelligence Service.
So I was sent to one guy, he was the Minister of Tourism. I forget his name, but hell. He was in a flat in central Durban, and I went to see him in one morning on instruction of South African government, which gave instruction to the Bureau for State Security, and I had interviewed him, a long interview. He said that there wouldn't be much problem because the army is small, the access is quite free, there's no much control to access the island by sea, possibly air. And then Mike Ho come on the scene. Mike Ho was quite a legend, sort of, among South Africans, and apparently in mercenary circles in Africa, because he was leading an expedition into Belgian Congo at that stage, and he told me he and the CIA put Mobutu in power, so to speak.
We disposed of the enemy quickly there.
It was decided that South Africa would hire mercenaries, recruited and led by Ho, to pull off a coup to oust René and put Mansham back in power. At this stage, according to Dolinczek, the operation fell under the control of the National Intelligence Service, headed up by Dr. Neil Barnard.
Of a challenging future.
In 1980, Neil Barnard visited the Durban office where we had a sort of a Christmas party. Jimmy Claessens was there. And during the party, he came to me and says, the State Security Council approved the plan. So he asked me to call up Mike Ho for a meeting, for a breakfast meeting the next morning, which I did, and they met for the breakfast there where Mike Ho had a certain instruction. I was not there, so I wouldn't know. But everybody was happy.
Jimmy Claessens and Neil Barnard were sending Dolinczek instructions from headquarters in Pretoria. Then suddenly, something changed.
Bureau for State Security's headquarters sends the signal down to us, to me, to say that I must tell Mike Ho to report in Pretoria urgently. He went to military intelligence in Poynton Building in Pretoria, where there was Brigadier Badenhorst and Brigadier Martin Maritz, I think. When Mike Ho came there, he said he came there in connection with the Seychelles operation. So military intelligence, just two gentlemen, they were quite abrupt. They says who? So Claessens was there, Jimmy Claessens, and he says that's the Prime Minister's instructions. Prime Minister then was P.W. Botha. Then they say, where's the document? So they didn't have the document, so Claassen left and got a letter from the Prime Minister saying that the operation of Seychelles is being transferred from the Bureau for State Security to the Directorate of Military Intelligence.
The military insisted on two conditions. First, that the mercenaries should not be South African nationals. And second, that the arms should travel to the islands separately from the soldiers of fortune. Mike Hoare ignored military intelligence on both counts.
He says,
tout pays a une histoire. Un pays a une histoire, son histoire est besoin complète. Et nous aussi, nous payons l'exception. Mais il y a une bonne histoire qui nous est cachée. Et cette bonne histoire qui nous est cachée, c'est le droit qu'on la vérité. Il y a un moment pour nous qu'on la vérité. On fait des masses, on est capable de gagner, bon bout qui, bon jimoun qui n'involve de l'évasion mercenaire, c'est elle, même je t'ai causé. Je n'entends Martin Dolinche, quand il y a subversion, comment il y a quelque chose qui commence. En comparaison, nous comprenons qu'il est arrivé après qu'il M. Mancamp, qui gagne ouverture par M. René, c'est à cause de M. Mancamp qui attache beaucoup d'importance avec Sud-Afrique. Et nous connaissons aussi, pour dire, les M. René qui fait coup d'État, il tient en paix, South African Airlines a posé cessé. Et là, Sud-Afrique, PW Bouda, petit premier ministre, n'est pas content. Et là, démarche, il y a un PCC droit qui est resté là-bas, Sud-Afrique, qui est dans l'exilé, démarche pour mercenaires, Vin Cécile, qui commence. Et là, dans l'Inchek, il y a contre tout quelque chose. Bon, ben, c'est mon bon frère. Si aujourd'hui, nous avons l'administration qui prend l'importance avec ses affaires mercenaires, par exemple, tu dis, première fois, vice-président, l'air sur le pouvoir, après 4 ans, qu'ils ont une reconnaître, oui, mercenaires, qui descendent, c'est seulement, tu causes le 25 novembre, comme journée la défense. Mais nous faisons si, nous connaissons comment hier, le 25 novembre, nous avons déclaré comme journée la défense. Et l'événement qui est arrivé. Et ça, l'événement, c'est l'événement qui est arrivé, c'est le côté d'une interférence étrangère pour venir, pour tirer un système au pouvoir, c'est ça. Nous écoutons tout ça là très bien, mon bon frère, mon bon frère. Et nous, comme on peut se loi, nous devons prendre cette histoire au sérieux. Ça, il peut faire retail, ça. Il y a une vraie histoire qu'entrer dans la carte CCA. Et ça nous marque, nous, jusqu'à aujourd'hui, il n'a pas eu l'évasion mercenaire encore. Si nous n'avons pas l'armée, qui peut arriver avec nous ça jour? On s'est content de tout, de assiser, de écouter témoignages, qui donne chèque, il fait l'explication qu'il donnait. Après qu'il sortit de la prison Cécile, il nous à la côte de sa histoire. Et aujourd'hui, nous tous ces lois, quand même, nous donnons ça une priorité. Il passe jamais trop tard pour qu'on nous histoire. De ce cas, nous avons arrêté de gagner, nous avons arrêté de montrer les doigts, l'ancienne administration, et puis nous avons arrêté de blâmer. Ça veut dire, nous, comme population, nous avons besoin d'enrichir nous. Nous avons besoin de prochaine partie.